What is 3D Gaussian splatting?
Both 3D and then dynamic Gaussian splatting. They're both ways to reconstruct very lifelike 3D from a series of normal 2D images or video as an input. And so basically, similar to photogrammetry, you would go out and you would capture normal images from the world. You don't need to actually, necessarily include LiDAR or any additional information to just get like the baseline here. But what you do is you just capture very sharp images that have a fair amount of parallax and overlap, and you feed it into, say, a Gaussian splatting pipeline, which you could think of as essentially potentially hundreds of thousands to millions of these three-dimensional ellipsoids, which kind of get stacked on top of one another on depending on your viewing angle. And so they enable these things that are known as like view dependent effects, which basically, when we're in the real world, if we see as we're walking around, light moving in a certain way, reflecting off of specific objects, we have a very innate expectation as to how that should actually function. And Gaussian splatting is able to reconstruct these specific effects as well. So we have this really lifelike 3D capability of being able to bring back information about, say, like foliage or glass or reflective objects, metal, thin structures. All of these things are able to be reconstructed accurately and in a lifelike capacity using methods like Gaussian splatting.
You mentioned ellipsoids, but originally it's something like blobs or some like I know there is some technical term for it also.
Yeah. So essentially, the technical term, I guess, would just be even just like plain like Gaussians. But it's just like they can take on very varying forms, I would say, depending on what they're needing to represent in a scene. But essentially, it's kind of like it's kind of like either like a stretched or thinner Gaussian, where basically, depending on what it is they're needing to reconstruct, they're going to take on that form.
I think these structures, let's call it structures, for the sake of the cause what we are discussing here.
Yeah.
I know they have like different. It can have this different shape, different color, different transparency, and
Mhm.
some other functions or features.
Mhm.
How would you compare it to a single point in a point cloud, for example? Because we know that the point cloud has some coordinates and has some RGB color, right? Or intensity, for example, or maybe more.
Yeah.
But how would you compare single Gaussian compared to a single point?
I think that they're pretty similar in this way, where they're almost like individual points with color and a couple more parameters that have been added on there. But as it's like baseline, at least in this current form, Gaussian splatting is being initialized by a sparse point cloud as its like underlying initial reconstruction. So I would say that it has very strong roots in that with the point cloud as a point of
Hmm.
comparison.
Hmm. Perfect. I wanted to jump on some differentiation compared to photogrammetry and to other to NeRFs and so on. As a first thing, let's go to alignment process. Is there any fundamental difference between how photogrammetry alignment works and how the alignment for the Gaussian splatting works? It usually is done with the COLMAP, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're still going to be running Gaussian splatting as like a first initial step through a structure from motion pipeline, really aligning in a 3D space the individual camera poses in the vast majority of methods with it. Just like, if you were using either like RealityScan or Metashape for photogrammetry, you'd still use the same exact software and you'd still be running this alignment process through it. And it's only at that part after, when you have the actual alignment and the poses, that you're going to be shaking on a different pipeline. But that initial like setup of actually aligning and using structure for motion is still super critical to the actual successful 3D reconstruction for Gaussian splatting. It's actually hugely important to the pipeline to the more accurately you can understand in a 3D space, definitively where each individual camera is tremendously beneficial to the reconstruction.
Is there any reason why the first developer came up with the COLMAP? Like, didn't he know about the RealityScan or Metashape or whatever photogrammetry software that it can actually do the same?
It's very possible, though. I think back then, I think that was pre when Reality Capture, or now RealityScan, was because it used to be super expensive for like any user, from what I recall. And then I think in like mid 2024 they updated it, so if you have like 1 million or less in revenue, then it's free. But yeah, it would have been a lot nicer if the structural motion can sometimes be the longest part of the reconstruction process. So, but I'm hopeful that that's going to get a lot of attention this year. Actually, is that portion of the pipeline.
So let's say that there is no fundamental difference, but have you actually seen any comparison of alignment in RealityScan, let's say for example, compared to a COLMAP alignment of dataset?
Yes. So I think it all like is dependent on the underlying data set. I would say that Reality Scan is definitely much faster than COLMAP, where you can track 1,000 images much faster, probably exponentially faster with Reality Scan than COLMAP. And definitely as you introduce more and more images, that gap I think will become a bit more
Sorry,
apparent.
is it dependent on the algorithm, or is it because it's using different parts of the computer?
I
Why
think
is
it's
it
more.
so much faster?
I think it's more from the algorithm on it, where it's at least on RealityScan. I'm not totally sure what's like their specific underneath the hood, but I have a feeling that it's probably from the algorithm.
Hmm.
But
And
yeah,
perfect. So okay, so we can say that that probably not much of the difference would be seen on the registration or alignment either from the photogrammetry or the COLMAP. The only difference seems to be the speed of it, right?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, COLMAP is incredibly reliable. I would say for if you are able to be just like a bit more patient with some of the structural motion process, but there are a couple like paid options or additional options that are a bit faster. Now there's also a method called GlowMap as well that is also much faster too than COLMAP.
The one thing is a speed, but from my experience, I can see that the COLMAP is more uh, like has better tolerance. I would call it like you can get pretty much similar outputs from worse datasets compared to photogrammetry.
Yeah, I would definitely
Is it
compare.
true, or is it just my?
No, I think definitely compared to photogrammetry, Gaussian splatting and the various radiance fields are a bit more forgiving in terms of the number of overlap between the images that you would require. I have definitely observed it to be a bit more forgiving in its reconstruction capabilities.
Mhm, mhm. Before the 3D Gaussian splatting came, the first technology that like this disrupted the internet and just destroyed all the social media was NeRFs, right? So
Yeah.
can you first tell me like what's the basic difference between NeRFs and 3D Gaussian splatting?
Yeah, so NeRF stands for Neural Radiance Field, and a lot of times people conflate like the word radiance field with NeRF because it's in the word of NeRF. But both Gaussian splatting and NeRFs are both types of radiance fields. But the way that they actually look to sample the world and reconstruct it is very different from one another. So NeRF typically uses a technology called ray casting, where essentially, if you can imagine from your camera's lens here, it would shoot out an infinite number of rays into the scene and then take samples along different points. It's kind of like casting a fishing line and then taking samples on it. But at the time, so in 2020, when NeRF was initially published, the first paper took very long to train. So it would take, potentially 24 plus hours to train. And that very much changed in 2022 with a paper that was published called Instant Neurographic Primitives, otherwise known as Instant NeRF or Instant NGP from NVIDIA. And what that allowed for was the rapid training of NeRFs. So taking them from 24 hours to, like a minute or so. And you began to be able to train these really fast. And then one of the criticisms thereafter was the rendering rates of NeRFs, but this is not really a problem anymore. NeRFs have the capability of being well above real time now, and so Instant NGP has a version 2 that can enable well above real time rates, and there are other methods like radiance surfaces as well that will also allow NeRFs to render at well above real time rates too.
Mhm.
But like I was saying, NeRFs use a very small MLP, a like neural network to actually reconstruct the scene, whereas there's technically no AI involved in Gaussian splatting, at least in the
That's
standard form.
exactly what I was going to ask, because I have heard from several people connecting both nerves and 3D Gaussian splatting to AI. So,
Mhm.
which one is actually using AI in any way?
Yeah, so in their pure form, just pure like initial publication, NeRF uses a small amount of AI, and Gaussian splatting does not use AI, though they are both compatible with additional layers of artificial intelligence. So, for instance, if you wanted to like query a scene like a reconstruction, and you wanted to ask a question, you could pair it with an LLM, and that will then bring in more pieces. Or if you wanted to extend it to have more of these like AI based features, uh, this is also possible on both of them.
Mhm. How is Nerf like particularly using AI? What is it needed for?
So it uses a like multi-layer perceptron essentially to actually when it's running like the inference of it's actually using a multi-layer perceptron. So depending on the actual like method and what it is that you are doing with it, it will bring it in there. But yeah, that's kind of like the base of its use of AI.
But it's not like guessing the scene, right? Like where you're missing some shots. Is it actually like recreating the scene even without enough imagery, or?
Um, Technically, in some ways, yes. When you go to say if you only capture like 180 degrees of a scene, and then you wanted to see what's behind it, that would be its estimation of what it would look like from that viewing angle, without having any prior knowledge to what would be there, and it actually
Mhm.
does like a decent job, at that, despite having literally no reference information. So in that way, yes.
In 2 episodes ago, I had Thomas Barnas from Overhead, and I asked him. We were speaking also about 3D Gaussian splatting, and I asked him whether the photogrammetry is dead, and I got so much backlash for that because people hate that question. So I'm not going to ask whether photogrammetry is dead, but is NeRF dead?
No, 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 no. I think that if anything, over time, people will find that NeRF is very powerful in its capabilities, and that a lot of it has not been properly leveraged yet. And there are a lot of upfront advantages to using things like Gaussian splatting, but I think over time that people will find NeRF to be very strong in its capabilities. So
So you don't
yeah.
think that it like the just the thing that happened before 3D Gaussian splitting? You think that the nerve still will have some function in the 3D world, right?
I think so. Yeah, because where we are right now is we have such large progress in research across the whole like radiance field category, where we still don't know the best way to reconstruct the world around us. It's not like we're at a point where the technology is plateaued and we just can't like innovate anymore. It's very much at the opposite end of this, and so my expectation is that we will see a lot of advancements, for NeRFs, for Gaussians, for voxels, for other ways to represent the 3D world. I think that there is still very much an open question about the best way to reconstruct the world, but we do know at the very bottom of it that we have access to extraordinarily lifelike 3D. It's not like we have to pick from a group of bad options. All of the options should have a very high ceiling on them.
hmm Okay, so I think you just proved that you know a thing or two about the radiance fields and nerves and Gaussian splitting. Uh, just tell me, what's your background? How do you get into this field?
Yeah. So for me, my background was more in just like curiosity, I would say. Going back like at this point, like 6-ish years, where I was just very curious from a photography standpoint or a imaging standpoint, if it would be possible to have photography and other imaging mediums enter 3D and retain the fidelity as they do in 2D. And so, when I saw instant NGP, I just realized that was possible, and so kind of just like pivoted my life into into pursuing it and then documenting it. So my background is more so in general entrepreneurship, and for the last 3 or 4 years or so, I guess it's been acting as also like a quasi journalist or documentarian about this
Are you
technology.
also a coder? Like, do you understand the code deeply of either 3D Gaussian splitting or NeRF, or you're just more a researcher and you understand the connections and how things works?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to become friendly with quite a few engineers in this field, and I don't have a very strong background in programming, but a lot of this has been supplemented by just a lot of conversations with either engineers or the specific researchers who are putting out these works. So a lot of it has been just direct either exposure or very long conversations with
Mhm.
people about progress.
Do you have some favorite? Do you have any favorite bias connected to 3D Gaussian splitting or NeRF? I have several, but I'm interested whether you have some like top.
For individual like methods or just like the general technology
Like,
itself.
like generally, if you're speaking to somebody that is not using 3D Gaussian splitting yet,
Mhm.
they are either
Yeah,
from the photogrammetry field or laser scanning or whatever. Like, what's
yeah.
the your favorite bias that you hear from them?
Um, well, I think that there's a couple, where if people are using cameras or 2D in really any capacity, I think that they would stand to gain from shifting their work into being done in 3D. So to give an example, I was just at CES, I guess 2 weeks ago, and it ended up where I spent a fair amount of time at some of the booths trying to lobby these companies to change their business models because I feel like they could offer a better service with pursuing 3D instead of 2D. So a lot of times, I think that it almost feels too good to be true that we can reconstruct the world around us in as lifelike 3D as we can, capture in 2D. So for me, that's one of the biases that I see is that, there's definitely a certain amount of uh, thought around like how high fidelity these representations can be, but we've definitely like well past the point of being able to reconstruct 3D to the point where not only is it indistinguishable from 2D, but is potentially higher resolution than we have the capability of actually seeing.
Mhm. Mhm. Since you have already mentioned the Nvidia and like their first approach to instant NGP, um, I remember very vividly. I have mentioned it several times. Like I remember their first video about the instant NGP with the woman.
With the Polaroid
It,
camera.
it was shot from four different sides, and it created like this perfect 3D model or the NeRF
Yeah,
model of
yeah.
uh, is it a bullshit or like I'm still struggling like whether it was just the bad marketing or bad communication of what it really is for and why is it good, or do you think that there was some deeper misunderstanding from my side of what they wanted to communicate?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely and I know exactly which one where she's holding it a Polaroid camera like this. I think, and that definitely was very impressive. I'm not totally sure how they did that with that many images. I mean, the author of Instant NGP or one of the authors of Instant NGP, Thomas Muller, is incredibly intelligent, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he figured out a way to do it at that point in time or to optimize it for that specific data. Um, but I do feel that like um, there's so many possibilities for NeRF to really be discussed and utilized that I'm not sure exactly was captured at that moment in time to really illustrate how powerful of a technology it would be for people. But it also had a lot of competition because it was coming out just around like a little bit before ChatGPT, and a few other of these like breakthroughs. So I think it also suffered from a lot of competing technology at the time of its publication.
Great. So I will go through some of my favorites biases that have been there from the very beginning. So like from usually from surveyors and from mapping companies, it was the question was about the accuracy and the level of detail.
Mhm. Yeah, the accuracy one is definitely like a big question. I would say that it should have the capability of being as accurate as photogrammetry in the future. I because they're still using just general structure from motion as the underlying backbone. It already knows very precisely where in a given 3D space each individual pose is. I think that there's a bit more effort to be done there to actually like really productize that capability and make it a bit more sound. But it should be feasible. And on the other side, on the fidelity side, whatever level of detail has been captured from the 2D should be able to be reconstructed into 3D. And so we've seen some examples of data sets from like Esri, for instance, where they're going to take 50,000 medium format images and reconstruct it into a city. They're going to be able to continually zoom in more and more. I mean, you'll need a device powerful enough to reconstruct it initially, but on the level of detail side, I don't have like any worries about the potential fidelity going forwards.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my usual response to that is like, I don't think that the accuracy is something we should focus on with 3D Gaussian splatting, since, for example, with the photogrammetry, you can go into like really high detail. If you use the right workflow, you can go into millimeters or maybe sub-millimeters, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the right camera, with the right control of the scene and everything else, you can go to very high accuracy and very high detail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think that this is the case for the 3D Gaussian splatting because, and prove me wrong if you have different opinion, but I think that the 3D Gaussian splatting, the main and the prior goal is to recreate the visual representation of the scene or the object, not the geometrical representation. So, if there is a hypothetically, if there is a question whether should I put this point here because it fits geometrically, or should I put it here because it fits visually? 3D
Mm-hmm.
Gaussian splatting is always going to prefer the visual side, right?
Probably. That at least as of right now, that I would say that is the case. So it will be, yeah. I would say that is the case. But the nice thing too with these technologies is you can also still run them both in parallel and toggle between them based upon what your need is for the time being. And so you're not prevented from doing one or the other. And so I think that they're very complementary in this capacity.
I think, yeah, I agree. It's very important to even though I asked about the death of photogrammetry or NeRFs, it's more to trigger the discussion rather than me being sure that the photogrammetry is dead, because it's not. I always think about the 3D Gaussian splatting as another layer of the visualization of your datasets, right? So
Mhm.
even though you use point clouds, you use 3D meshes, you use I don't know, like the BIM model from the building, you can just add another layer. You're not going to replace any of those, right? So you will just add another layer that is visually incredible, uh, used for different purposes compared to the others.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would say it makes sense just to use what works best right now for the
Mhm,
job.
mhm. Another thing was because from the very beginning there was hesitation about whether you can actually take nerves or 3D Gaussian splatting and put them into gaming engines like Unreal
Hmm.
Engine or the Unity or whichever.
Hmm.
So I think we are past that, right?
Yeah, it's been very exciting to see how quickly, specifically Gaussian splatting has been adopted by what I would call like the industry standard software suite, where we're seeing native support in Houdini, we're seeing it in the open beta of Nuke in the entertainment industry. We're seeing it being integrated into suites like Esri's ArcGIS. It's going to be coming to Blender as well. And there have been a lot of people who have been quick to implement plugins where it can work quite strongly in things like After Effects and DaVinci Resolve. And so it's been adopted very quickly, and in some of these cases, even catching just like the native support of the creators of the software.
Mm-hmm. And the interesting part is that it's not that the developers of 3D Gaussian splatting would uh, do something for the outputs to change to be able to put them into Unreal Engine or Unity. It was the other way around. Like those gaming engines were able to accept those PLY files
Mm-hmm.
or whichever Gaussian splatting format it is,
Mm-hmm.
and just to adapt and work with those because they saw the huge potential in it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that it was just like too compelling of an offering to, not include. And as you're mentioning, it wasn't necessarily like a huge lift where, things needed to be radically overhauled to make it work.
Mhm.
While definitely it was a lift for these, these companies determined that it was worth
Yeah,
the purchase.
yeah. Jamie is adding to that accuracy because it's not only about the accuracy and detail, but also for surveyors especially, it's also about the georeferencing and coordination system. Is this already solved? Are there solutions where you can actually, similarly to photogrammetry, just to pick up targets, give them coordinates, and to have 3D Gaussian splatting that is in coordination system?
I believe that there are a couple platforms that offer this. I think that uh, Bentley Systems and Esri offer some of these capabilities. Definitely, it is a big request. I would say, and so I think that like uh, more of the reason for this is not necessarily that it's an impossibility. It's just that the technology is also still pretty new to a lot of these teams, and they're still like developing out the pipelines. So definitely, there's definitely a real world application for this. So I'm hoping that we see it added.
And I also think like the those that are developing these softwares that are usually not coming from the survey industry. So I don't think this is impossible. It's just not in their roadmap right now because it's something not important for those who are developing, right, these softwares. uh, but there is one another thing. If I think about it deeply, if you, let's say you are able to put Gaussian splatting in coordinates,
Mhm.
since it doesn't have a point cloud, it doesn't have like particular points which you could measure because it only has splats, which, okay, the splat has some center, it has some dimensions, but the problem with the measuring on directly on Gaussian splats is that you are not able to pick a particular point, right? If you have, for example, reconstructed the corner of the building, it's very
Mhm.
difficult to pick it with one click.
Mm. Yeah, it can be a bit hard to precisely pick the point in its current form, but like you were saying as well, I think that like that it just requires a bit more specific engineering for this problem, but I don't see why it couldn't be achieved.
Mhm. I've seen this being faked. I think it's a clever solution for that. For example, with X grids, where we can see the combination of lidar and Gaussian splatting, where you process the lidar data, you process the Gaussian splatting, you align those, and they actually allow you to move within or inside the Gaussian splatting and do the measurements on a hidden point on a hidden point cloud, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Xgrids is like a amazing company in that they've really now started to create hardware specific for Gaussian splatting as well, and starting to move the conversation into just what's the best device to actually capture this technology. And so, as you're mentioning, pairing it with lidar as well also helps tremendously with some of these like accuracy related questions too, where you're not necessarily just like feeding pure 2D images into it.
I would love now you to show us something interesting, something that caught your attention and you would like to share with our audience. So just think quickly about which video should I pull out, and I will give you space to talk about this. But before that, we have several questions that I would like to touch so that we don't get disconnected with the topic.
Okay.
Um, there's a question about the triangle splatting. I have
Uh-huh.
never heard that. Do you know what the guy is talking about?
Yeah. So you kind of at the beginning of the conversation, today we were talking about like these different like primitives to potentially reconstruct the world. So in the case of Gaussian splatting, they are using Gaussians. In the case of triangle splatting, they are using triangles, and there are other ones. There's one called deformable beta splatting. There's convex splatting. There's all these different ways to represent the 3D shapes. And this is where I was saying like we really don't know definitively yet what the best way to reconstruct the world is. And so one of the really compelling papers that has emerged has been triangle splatting, and there's actually been a couple follow-up papers to it. And would you mind actually putting the question up one more time on the screen for me, Michael? Or
Oh,
maybe just like
I
command F.
already
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay, I
unselected it.
just command F'd it. Okay. Is Are there any standalone?
Yeah, it's here. It's here. You can see it here.
Oh, okay, there, that one. Yeah, so triangle splatting is definitely having a lot of interest, I would say, on a more like internal basis. There's definitely a lot of excitement still about it. There's now a follow-up paper called Triangle Splatting Plus, and there's also another paper called Mesh Splatting as well, which just came out just a couple weeks ago, where there's definitely a large interest. I haven't followed like as closely over the last couple of weeks, but it's still very much an active point of discussion, I'd say.
Okay, so we have a question about standalone applications available for Gaussian splatting. I think about the software solutions we will be speaking later, so I will leave this unanswered. But yeah, we will get to that. Um, the implementation of Gaussian splatting into ArcGIS, I think you have already mentioned, Desiree, that it's working. I think that they announced it during the last interview, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that officially they announced it at Intergeo, and then I think it became available like a couple weeks later, and I think it's version 3.6 that is now supporting. Yeah, it's 3.6 that supports Gaussian splatting, and their implementation is incredibly powerful. Where they are reconstructing entire cities.
Mhm.
I've seen a couple of data sets from their team where it could be like the city of Boston, it could be an entire football
Mhm.
arena.
Mhm.
They have already figured out like the scale of it. So when we talk about like how large can these captures be, there's it's kind of only limited by the number of images and the number of GPUs that you have. At this point you could reconstruct like a country or larger if you wanted.
I had this question prepared later, but since you touched it, are there basically any limits to how many images could be reconstructed with the Gaussian splatting and the size of the area? Or
No. There's not any limit that we are aware of yet. I mean, so far the largest capture I think I've seen is about like I think like 26 kilometers or so in a single reconstruction, or maybe it is the one of Boston. I'd have to look into that. But I know that Boston one, for instance, was trained upon 50,000 medium format images, and you just needed to let it reconstruct. I think just the amount of compute necessary to
so
do that in
as
the amount
long
of
as you
images.
have the truck full of GPUs, you should be able to process.
Yeah, there's actually a method called FVDB from NVIDIA that my friend Jonathan Stevens is actually doing a talk on later this afternoon. I don't think he's going to go into like this level of how many images and such, but that specific platform should let you do infinite numbers as well, or it is moving hopefully towards true multi GPU support.
We have a question about the possibility of creating an orthophoto from NeRF technology. I think we can answer this for both NeRF and Gaussian splatting, whether it is possible and whether it is being done.
Yeah, it should definitely be possible for nerfs and both like for both nerfs and splats, and to demonstrate it live. I think that there should be like a not like right now, but it should be totally feasible to like demonstrate that.
Great, and we will go shortly to some demonstrations. So from questions, I think it's all for right now. So, which video you would like me to pull out and speak about?
Yeah, perhaps we can talk about some of the applications where Gaussian splatting is being used both in. Oh, actually, so maybe we can show that we were just talking about there should be the reconstruction of Boston. Actually, it's I think labeled as Boston.
Attempt, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just to give like context to some of these things that we're talking about. So all of this here is a splat, and this is all being reconstructed within Esri's ArcGIS. So we get a sense as to like the scale of how large some of these captures can be, where we've already crossed the point, and when we like actually go to zoom in, we can see like the level of detail too that's being supported in them. So I think that
you don't remember the amount of images used for that.
I think about 50,000 is what they told me that were captured. I think from a combination of like helicopter and maybe drone, but I would have to brush up on the actual capture method on that. But one of the really exciting things about Gaussian splatting and these general radiance field representations is how I think they generalize across industries, where it's not necessarily proving valuable for just like geospatial or just construction, but really for any industry that needs some level of visual inspection of things or being able to translate things visually. So maybe we can show similar to this, that there's one called Sky Tour video in there as well, where we're starting to see some of these very large real estate entities to support Gaussian splatting. So this specific example is being shown in Zillow, which is a very large real estate platform in the United States. Another company called CoStar Group, which owns homes.com and apartments.com, are also now supporting Gaussian splatting through a thing called Matterport 3D Exterior. So we're seeing basically the capability of home buyers or renters being able to actually explore these neighborhoods and hopefully at some point the interiors of homes as well, where as opposed to say like traditional 3D or like a panoramic image where you can only stand either like in one location or you can just only hop from location to location, we'll be able to see completely explorable real estate properties for even us as the consumer. Hopefully,
you use the magic word Matterport, and it triggers a lot of feelings in different feelings with different people. I've been using Matterport for years for specific use cases. So you're saying that they already solved how to display 3D Gaussian splatting on the top of the Matterport tours, like with the third-party software, or
so. The CoStar Group, which owns Matterport now, announced something called Matterport 3D Exterior, where essentially it has the Matterport name on it, but isn't necessarily being captured from Matterport devices. From what I understand, they are using drones to go into like some of these like neighborhoods and then reconstruct them into 3D. And so it seems like potentially they're putting all 3D under the Matterport name. This is just all speculation, but I would have to imagine that it would be a very large priority for their team to figure out Gaussian splatting capture from the Matterport devices.
I can see very slow development on the Matterport side, so I don't really have any hopes for them to adopt 3D Gaussian splatting in this decade. What I believe will be happening is, because there are several different companies that are like third um service providers for the Matterport. They're allowing people to add some layers, to add some virtual staging, to add some additional information, for example.
Hmm.
And a few years ago, I was able, thanks to one of those, to add the exterior 3D mesh of the building
Hmm.
on the top of the virtual tour within the motherboard. So
Hmm.
what I think might be happening soon is not only to use GLB for adding that 3D mesh model on the top of it, but somehow allow also the 3D Gaussian splatting to be visible.
Yeah. I think that a lot of them are going to have to, support this technology in some capacity. And even as you're mentioning on like the either adding additional objects or say simulating a space as well. There's a platform called Nucleus 4D, which actually just announced $1.5 million fundraising round yesterday. And basically, they have a very similar use case for this. So, say if you're like a wedding venue or some kind of like a real estate property, and you want to show different configurations of it, this is also something that I think is rapidly going to emerge for businesses, and hopefully for us as end users too, where we'll be able to hopefully really be able to effectively plan or iterate on design choices for something that we'll probably be spending a fair amount of money on.
Mhm. Mhm. We already mentioned Matterport or Esri as one of those big companies that are well, Matterport not yet, but Esri definitely is diving deep into 3D Gaussian splatting. Can you mention several more? Like the basic question is whether we are still in the early stage or we are past the chasm of something between mass adoption and early stage. Like, are these big guys already jumping in on the train, or they are still hesitating?
Uh, I think it's safe to say at this point there's an extreme amount of interest from very large corporations across a variety of industries that are internally working on this. And so I think, it will be overwhelmingly likely that before I mean, it's still only January, that by like the midpoint of this year, we will see very large organizations productize Gaussian splatting or some other form of very lifelike 3D out into the world. So I know that there are quite a couple of corporations have shared their roadmap for the next little bit with me, and it's I think going to be very exciting to see some of the things that will be enabled from these different organizations, and it's not going to be just one industry either. They're very unrelated industries to one another, but they're all finding a lot of value in being able to either visualize their work in 3D or provide some level of service also to people in 3D.
Hmm. Which video do you want me to pull out now?
Yeah, so I think that we can also now maybe move to entertainment, just to give like a industry that is a bit unrelated to geospatial and construction. So maybe we could do the Superman one. And so this so far we've only really talked about. Oh yeah, there'll be some audio as well. Th- this kind of shows about so it's like kind of fun timing where we're looking at dynamic in the comments, but this is a screen grab from the 2025 movie Superman, where basically these two actors here are every single shot of them is dynamic Gaussian splatting. So while the examples so far we've shown have all been static in more akin to photography, these examples are more akin to video, where we have the access to create very lifelike dynamic 3D content as well from a series of 2D images or video from multiple perspectives. So to kind of go into creating a DIY volumetric 4D capture, it is quite difficult, as Julian in the comments is mentioning. to afford some of these camera setups, and there is a fair amount of work being done as well to aid this reconstruction using diffusion or other generative models. So I think that there will be some work that gets done this year on that front to get the cost of at least the cameras down across this year.
Okay, but how does it work fundamentally? Is it just capturing the scene like from 20, 30 different cameras or maybe more, just capturing the same scene frame by frame, and then you are processing frame by frame the Gaussian splatting? Or how does it work fundamentally to get the motion in the
Yeah,
scene?
it depends on the pipeline and the company that's capturing it. So some of them will train 60 splats a second, where you're syncing it up to the frame rate of the initial capturing camera, and then you're feeding sequences of PLYs into almost like a dynamic flipbook of sorts, and then adding in some more temporal consistency to it. Others take a more like black box approach where they are not necessarily using like a series of PLYs and just have some kind of centralized format of like video based format of sorts. But that portion is still, I would say, very much under wraps in terms of how some of these companies are doing it. But there have been a few to have their own implementation for it.
Do you see any soon to be like use cases where you could see almost real-time Gaussian splatting in the movement?
In the
Like, for
movement,
example, use cases for watching sports, for example, right?
I think that'll be a bit harder for the immediate future to do that unless something like changes. That in a live capacity, I think would be a pretty big challenge right now. Even with like, you need a lot of GPUs, I think, to do that. And we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to rule anything out, but I think that it would be an engineering challenge at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, which video next?
Oh, yeah. So I can give another recent example of a dynamic capture, which has been blowing up on social media across last week. So it's the ASAP Rocky one, where ASAP Rocky just released a new album at the end of last week, and one of the singles for that is a song called Helicopter. And when we go to actually see, the capture itself, it's pretty frenetic in its pacing. But here it'll slow down.
The starting scene is not very calming.
Yeah. So now we'll see a bit more static relative to that initial part. But essentially, every single person in this capture is not 2D. Everyone here is dynamic 3D reconstruction, and so they were captured at a company called Evercoast, both here in New York and then in Los Angeles as well. And so all of these captures, these are all real people that are captured in 3D. And so they took the captures and then brought them into Houdini using a plugin called GSOPs from CG Nomads. And they were able to work with it in Houdini before then bringing it into Otoy's Octane render as well. And we can see, it's pretty wild that this is one of the larger scale deployments of dynamic Gaussian splatting on the internet currently. And they actually just like yesterday or a couple of days ago put out a visualizer onto YouTube too, where you can start to move around the scene a bit more, which is pretty cool. But this has gotten a lot of interest on the internet because a lot of people were speculating if it was just all generative AI and like how something like this could even be possible. But it's primarily thanks to Gaussian splatting is the actual answer.
How do you think these video clips are made for? Like, what's the intention? Is the intention to show like, here is what we can do with $1 million and just show you the latest technology available on the market? Or do you think that the regular people who doesn't really understand the reality capture and processing and everything else, so like very regular people out of the business, to say like, wow, this is really cool?
Yeah, I think that it represents like a exciting direction for imaging as an overall medium for both like creators and people who want to explore like filmmaking. It's kind of like my assessment from this, where for me, I think that like part of being able to visualize the chaos that clearly they wanted to try and create here, is a way to more effectively control that chaos from a complete 3D scene, as opposed to just even that table break, that shattering was 3D, which is it's kind of cool to see this. So I look at it as just more of a larger way to actually create content and interact with the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
If they wanted to do this scene before the 3D Gaussian splatting, what would be the alternative to do this?
they would just need to be doing just general volumetric video, where you're not necessarily getting those lifelike view dependent effects, or that way to really make it be a bit more indistinguishable from
Or
2D.
maybe shoot everything in front of the green screen with a lot of planning and synchronization.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where some of these integrations, like into Nuke as well, for instance, are becoming very important to actually be able to recomposite back into 2D. It seems like that addition by itself is hugely important
Mhm, mhm.
for the industry.
Yeah, we have a comment here. They don't want to advertise, but Olli Huttunen kind of invents or shares ideas for do-it-yourself methods on 3D, 4D Gaussian splatting. Please do advertise. This is supposed to be educating session, so no worries. If guys, you have anything interesting, anything that is connected to what we are speaking about, just share it here in comment section. You are totally welcome to share any company or any person or whatever you think is valuable for other viewers and the audience.
Yeah, and Ollie has a lot of really great methods as well. So he's a big proponent of having essentially three 360 cameras on essentially like an
Yeah,
extendable like
yeah.
selfie stick or pole, and it's very helpful to go and actually cut down your capture time to be as fast as possible, and it's
I,
actually
I
very
I
important.
already have Oli on my list. He doesn't know it yet, but hopefully he will come
Yeah,
and
no, he
join me
does.
for a discussion because yeah, he's really great, and I think I have seen it on his feed, the synthetic 3D Gaussian splatting scene.
Yeah,
Let's
and
talk
that's actually
about
been
that for a few minutes.
yeah, and having uh the synthetic reconstruction is actually proving to be pretty important in the video game industry right now, where if you have an existing 3D scene, you can place a bunch of synthetic cameras into it and then create that into a splat or any type of radiance field. And the advantage to this is that you get much smaller file sizes, but you're still preserving the visual effects of the actual traditionally 3D modeled scene. And it's still, it's a smaller file size, and you're still getting well above real time rendering rates as well. So it's making things a lot easier to actually transfer between teams internally, from what I've seen. And what people are also beginning to do is they're essentially taking the scenes and then putting them onto a platform like a rival space, for instance, and then being able to generate auto collisions and then kind of
Mhm.
like walk around it as another video game sort.
Can you maybe just quickly explain what does it mean actually, the synthetic reconstruction of 3D Gaussian, because it sounds like some powder from the gym accessories or something like that. So
Yeah,
just-
sure, sure. Yeah, so say you have a scene that you've modeled by hand, or someone has modeled by hand in Blender or Unreal or something, or say you're in a video game as well. Like say you're playing like Apex Legends, for instance, and you go and you actually are going to take a bunch of screenshots. Say you take, in this hypothetical example, say you take like 10,000 screenshots of an entire level in one of these models. You can then just feed those directly back into the traditional structure for motion and then Gaussian splatting pipeline, and then you have a equivalent of that scene or level, or you can even, it works with any camera. So if you see a scene in a movie that has a bit of parallax in it, you can go and record that and then feed that into the pipeline, and you can reconstruct sets from movies as well, from the actual like final footage. All of this is totally possible.
Perfect. Which video is next?
So perhaps we can. Oh, actually, let's do the Portal Cam Octane render one, because we're talking a bit about synthetic scenes. We're talking a bit about some of these other capabilities. So this will more so illustrate some of the fidelity as well that you are able to get with Gaussian splatting. Here, so hopefully the fidelity is able to really translate effectively. But this was captured by Christoph Schindler, who, in my opinion, is probably like the best in the world at capturing. And so he captured this with the XGrid's Portal Cam and then brought it into Otoy's Octane render. And hopefully the bitrate will kind of like showcase how strong this reconstruction is. But one of the things that's been exciting about Otoy's Octane render is that one, it now supports full path tracing for Gaussian splatting, so you're able to see some of the effects like there on those chrome balls. But we're also now able to effectively relight these captures as well to within Octane, so you can see like some of these like torches that are being inserted after the fact and being able to cast illumination into the scene as well. And all of these were captured with just like one camera, and we're able to then, I think he took it into both Octane Render and Cinema 4D for this, where we also were touching on some of the industry support for Gaussian splatting. But yeah, it's pretty wild what you can get inside of Otoy's Octane Render using their 2026 version at this point.
We mentioned XGrid several times, even we mentioned the portal cam right now. So this is just the information for the audience that I have done the webinar also with Mindy from XGrids a few weeks ago. So if you go to my YouTube channel, or probably you can find it also on LinkedIn, just go ahead and go watch it. It was very interesting, and she was especially showing us how you can do the scanning with the portal cam of the mirror wall, and you're invisible in that mirror. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's crazy. Their software is already past the point of being able just to like mask out people, and if you just walk up to mirrors and you capture them properly, you will have the reflection there.
People were asking me like how did they do this? Like, is it AI? How they get rid of the moving person? I don't know, like a miracle probably.
Yeah, but it's very exciting to see like this continue to, when we have lifelike 3D as a concept, it's not like it's lifelike 3D up to a certain point. It's like even mirrors, reflections, these things that are quite complicated in the real world are already capable of being reconstructed. So it's very exciting to me to actually like have, I don't know, reality in front of you, from just 2D images, or in the case 2D plus lidar for the portal cam.
We have a question from Sebastian from Vario. Like, how do you see the future of 3D Gaussian splatting connected to AI? Is there going to be some mashup and some improvements of 3D Gaussian splatting scenes, or will this develop totally separately?
No, I think that they're going to be very closely intertwined with one another. In terms of the reconstruction process, there are methods like NVIDIA's DiffX 3D Plus / Fixer, which basically helps in paint if you miss certain areas or if you want to expand. So in NVIDIA's use case, and actually maybe we can show the Alpamayo video here to actually like discuss this, but it's going to be incredibly intertwined, I imagine. For
which video?
It should be called NVIDIA developer Alpamayo 1.
Okay, I can see it.
But when we take a look at this use case, here is a looks like a dash cam, reconstruction. But when we take a look at this use case, here
not
is a Gaussian splatting. Looks like a dash cam, and it's actually but it actually necessarily like not 3D Gaussian splatting either. This is also Gaussian splatting, and it's actually not. This is actually necessarily reconstructed 3D Gaussian splatting either. It's also a lot of diameter too in its too. So they use something, and this is actually being Cosmos reconstructed there. A lot of generative application, and they're also too. So using something called Fixer, where if you could say Cosmos, you have like a normal dash cam reconstruction from a single lane. So you want to know using something called Fixer, where if you can say you have like a normal able to expand out dash cam reconstruction from a single lane, but you want to know what's happened the lane over from you. They're also able to expand out to aid that reconstruction process. On that side, I see a very tight coupling is also being AI constructed. So the reconstruction processes. On that side, depending on the industry, a very tight coupling of AI utilizing it in. One of the questions about reconstruction processes, live depending on the industry construction that you are, I imagine, utilizing it in. It will be one of the questions about like will we see live dynamic reconstruction in sports model? I imagine that so it will be one of the ways that people are also cutting down by cameras some like diffusion in these reconstructions is in the future by help. So using one of the ways that people are also cutting down cameras. There's a paper called DiffuMan from a company called 4DV that essentially they have cut down the number of cameras to about 4 in these reconstructions, and then using generative AI to fill in the rest of it. And while it's not like as sharp as using 100 cameras, for instance, it gets you pretty far along, even for where we are in this space of research. Because again, it's not like we're saying that our capabilities are capped out from how strong these methods can get. I still think it's very much at the beginning. And there's a lot of ways that AI will touch this. The other way that we can talk about is the pairing of LLMs and semantic-based querying with these radiance fields. So if you say, I'll use the example of like an agricultural field, where if you want to interact with or ask a question to an AI about the field, and you want to say it's like an apple picking or an apple orchard, and you want to be able to automate the counting of fruits or understand like the level of the growing of the crops. This is another area where I think we're going to see AI play a very large role in the radiance field reconstruction, or being able to ask questions about some 3D space in the world.
Are you personally afraid of AI in general?
In general, I think there are parts that are more concerning to me than others. For sure. I wouldn't say it's like all clean or all like negative across the board, but I think a lot of it will just need to be handled with intention and making sure that it's a benefit to society.
Mm-hmm. Okay, which video we should touch next?
Oh yeah, so perhaps we can go to, we could show the sharp one. Oh, actually, sorry, let's actually show light wheel while we're still on the topic of robotics, or talking a bit about simulation rather. So when we talk about some of the generalized capabilities of Gaussian splatting, here's another one. So here is a 360 camera for someone asking a little bit generalized capabilities of Gaussian splatting. Here's another one. So here is a 360 camera for someone asking a little bit earlier using Labs. You can take that as input. Basically, you generate an image. In this case, reconstruction. This is using Labs a Marvel scene, where basically use that single image. In the case robots, it was a 360 image. You can generate a 3D scene, and then use that Gaussian splatting to help a very strong way to enable the rapid task in the physical world of this. And so, Gaussian splatting is becoming a very strong way to enable the rapid immense amount of data capability on the scale of like exabytes. And robotics, so we're going to need actually like facilitate some amount of data, on the scale of value is being exabytes using. And so in order to actually like facilitate some of this, a lot of value is being found using the Gaussian splatting to actually create these simulation-based environments for robots.
Well,
so
the showcase is from the hotel room, but I can see a lot of potential in case of digital. Well, the showcase is from the hotel room, but I can see a lot of everywhere robotics will be like digital dominating very soon. Factory.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where, being able to really reconstruct the world around us, we can see the far-reaching implications of it, where it's, as again, it's not just construction, it's not just geospatial that's going to benefit from this. It's really going to, in my opinion, be anywhere where we need to work in 2D, probably, or in a physical space. It's just, it's a better way to represent the world than anything else we have currently.
We will get to different softwares usable for 3D Gaussian splatting, either processing or working around or displaying. We will get to that very soon. So maybe we should just finish this section with your videos and showcases.
Sure.
Which one you want to go next?
Maybe the Kelly comp one, because this it's a pretty short video, but it's one that I think is very exciting, and it comes from Meta's Hyperscape capture, where it's one that I think is very exciting, and screen grab that we see comes here from Meta's Hyperscape capture, from a Quest where 3 headset. This screen grab that we see here was captured directly from a Quest 3 headset, necessarily synonymous with their fidelity that we're able to get even with these devices that aren't on board. Necessarily synonymous for me with their fidelity feature, the hardware that we are using to capture. For me, it represents an exciting future where still the hardware that we are using. There's a lot more room, and the algorithms that are growth, and they're a lot more forgiving. These than are potentially, we think. And obviously, Meta has a lot of resources at their disposal, but I think it's a good proof of precedent to show what you could get even with a relatively limited device like a Quest 3.
How is it possible that they came basically out of nowhere with this function on Quest 3? Like, I don't remember any like significant papers or whatever regarding the Gaussian splatting, and one day there is just Quest 3 with
Right.
hyperscene with crazy good looking free Gaussian splatting.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Yeah, it's very crazy because believe it or not, Meta actually did publish a paper at CVPR 2025 last year called Hardware Rasterized Ray-Based Gaussian Splatting, and it literally describes like how, if you wanted to do this on a headset, how you would do it. And they publish it, and the code is also open source for this too, but it's got very little attention, like at all. Mainly because I think it goes back to people being like, hey, there's no way this could actually in practice be that good. But then when they show the reconstruction from it, you start to actually understand, like, yes, this actually is clearly feasible. But to your point, it definitely was a bit out of nowhere in terms of their engineering team, for which the Reality Labs team is like incredibly strong, and being able to see what's possible with really state of the art reconstruction pipelines, and like how far some of the existing cameras that we already have, for instance, can take us. Because if you're able to capture that lifelike 3D from a Quest, a lot of us have direct access to cameras that are significantly more capable or stronger than the ones that are contained there, even the ones on our phones, for instance. So it makes me very excited about the future of very lifelike 3D reconstruction across devices that people necessarily.
So it's not only that you can capture the scene with the Quest 3 and reconstruct it, but you can also bring other scenes from different devices, right, inside the Quest.
Not through Hyperscape Capture, which is the platform that Meta released, but there are other platforms that exist that will let you experience Gaussian splatting scenes on the Quest.
Okay.
So
but it would be with different application.
As of right now, yeah.
Okay.
Though it would not surprise me if Meta.
And I think I have seen some video of a person doing capturing with those Ray-Ban glasses.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it possible? Is it connected to Hyperscape, or do you
not
think
as of right now? They don't have the capability of uploading any of that information, but it does go back again just to show any camera has the capability of reconstructing the data necessary for a radiance field. And it's also being proven that like headset or head mounted devices are very good for capturing. Actually, people, I guess, tend to move around a bit more slowly, and they I think people understand that if like they can't see what's being captured, then it's not going to be reconstructed. Whereas if you hold your phone like way above your head, you kind of just like are hoping that like whatever you're capturing is going to work. But if you have to actually move your head up, it seems like it's a great capture device actually.
But I guess it's connected also to the fact that the Quest 3 also comes with a depth sensor, some kind of, which will help you reconstruct the scene and get the better Gaussian splatting compared to if you just move it around with the Red-Wing glasses, right?
Yeah, that's definitely very true. What I will be curious of if in the future, some of the subsequent designs of both from Meta and just other companies in general start to more so cater for 3D reconstruction compared to how we've always captured the world. Because like for instance, the Portal Cam is a initial like foray into saying like, what if we had a camera that is literally designed to capture Gaussian splatting? And so, I think that trend will continue and expand pretty radically over the course of this year.
I agree, and it's also very important to mention that we can see great reconstructions of Gaussian splatting also from 360 cameras, and these are getting smaller and smaller, right?
Yeah, and they're so much fun to capture with as well. Being able just to like walk around with either like the X5 or the 360 Osmo, and it definitely is very nice to know how much is being captured in that fidelity all at the same moment. So I really like capturing with 360 cameras.
We have, I think, last video, the sharp one.
Sure.
Can I put it?
Yeah. So Sharp, this is actually a method where you are taking just one image as the input, and you are able to. This is actually a method where you are taking just one image as the input, and you are able to very rapidly reconstruct it. It kind of shows how quickly a splat generate where you're not having the full 360 freedom from it, but it kind of shows how quickly immense amount of awareness to the world generate Gaussian splatting over the last like month or 6 weeks or so. It's definitely brought a immense amount of awareness. It doesn't necessarily know what's Gaussian splatting over the last like 6 months or 6 weeks. You can still get a very it was initially published, and you can see it doesn't necessarily know what's underneath some of these things, but these were all just still get a very I found on the large sense of like presence into the pipeline. I started exploring with some of the medium format images. These were all just like random images information I found on the internet pulled that I threw into I tried with the pipeline. I started exploring with some of the medium format images. I was just curious to see how much information like a bomb could be pulled into this. I tried with a gigapixel image and my computer, but thought it was it's really got like a bomb a lot of awareness error to Gaussian splatting. My hope is that people don't associate it with just one image because it's really brought a lot of awareness to Gaussian splatting. My hope is that people don't associate it with just one image because it's significantly more powerful 3D than that. But it does represent an exciting future whereby
no, you mentioned that it doesn't necessarily know what's behind or what's on the other side. You mentioned that it doesn't necessarily know what's behind perspective or what's on the other side exactly of the object needed for AI to better understand the depth and what's happening perspective there, and to better scene is exactly what's needed for AI to better understand what's happening there,
exactly.
and to better
and I
like
think
recreate something in the future.
Going to have more hardware that is really tuned to exactly. And I think that we're I think even phones are going to shift to meet this demand.
Yeah. Maybe we can jump to the software part. We don't have specifically videos for this, but maybe if I can ask you, maybe share your screen and just go through some softwares that you are using, maybe just to go to their website so that people can directly see what you're usually using.
Sure. Let me just go through some of these. So I've been trying to keep up with the adoption of Gaussian splatting on some of these existing platforms. So if you are a user of any of these systems here, there is some level of support for Gaussian splatting now on them. And we can see like the breadth of softwares that already are supporting the technology. So, some of the ones I definitely would recommend people check out are actually probably these 4 all in a row. Are all very powerful implementations of Gaussian splatting, whereby Play Canvas is, I would say, the de facto both editor and way to distribute Gaussian splatting on the internet, and is what powers a lot of these platforms that are out there right now. They have a whole suite of tools ranging from SuperSplat, which is their editor. They have the Play Canvas engine. They have Splat Transform, which is a way to quickly convert splats between different file types, and it's all free. A lot of it is open source as well, and it's definitely one that I would recommend learning or being aware of if you're interested in Gaussian splatting. And some of the examples we showed earlier were from Octane Render and Otoy. They are enabling really cool things within the platform. One note about
the people will find this on your website, right?
yeah. So it's just
Okay, so here it is, radiancefields.com.
yes. So you just go to Learn and then 3D.js compatibility right here, where I have all these platforms, and I've been trying to keep it up to date. And so if you're curious about how to use it, if you click here, it'll take you to the actual individual links, and you can click through to the information about where it's supported. So it's not just here's the ones that are supported. You can actually see the specific examples of it. But one other note on Octane Render is that in the 2027 alpha, which is something that was just initially released, is they're actually now beginning to support Gaussian splatting as a native file type export, meaning that as we were mentioning earlier, if you had a synthetic scene or like a 3D model, a traditional 3D model, Gaussian splatting is now being supported as a de facto file export, which is crazy, meaning that they will generate the actual reconstruction for you. It's just like how you would save something as like a JPEG or like a PNG. It's pretty wild that it's already been committed to in that way. But both Nuke and Houdini are very cool softwares. You can do most things in the world with these two softwares. There's a pretty steep learning curve on them, but I've just seen time and time again that you can do anything.
Okay, but all of these are once you already have the Gaussian splatting, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you will need a trained POI for
Yeah.
pretty
So
much all these.
can we show people also the softwares either online or offline which could be used for processing?
For processing?
Yeah.
Sure. So for processing, you can have things like post-shot, for instance. This is very nice in the software step, so it's not. It's nearly done.
Yeah.
To actually go ahead and
It's a very easy way
things. So
to
this is
both
still in the
install
structure promotion
and,
step, so it's
then
not.
train.
It's nearly done. Another really exciting
but
platform that I would definitely
it's a
want to
very
show
easy way
is
to both install
while
and,
we are
then
at
train.
the post shot, maybe I will share my screen because I'm training something as well. Well, it is already trained, and the level of detail also you are able to read things. So this was like from around 4,000 pictures.
Nice. Coming from a drone, right? I'm saying.
One important thing, and it's connected also to softwares. You can see all of these like let's call it flow. It's called floaters actually. So how we can get rid of those?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that introducing just an immense amount of parallax and sharp images into and like a lot of coverage into the scene is more often than not like a great way to just cut down the number of floaters. I think on the drone side or the larger scale ones, I think it just potentially needs more coverage maybe for it. It would be but I'd have to probably look at the initial images to better tell.
Please don't try to tell me that we took bad images because there are several people more that you would offend. But my question was directed to a piece of software that could help us to clean the scene actually.
Oh, I see. So definitely, putting it into SuperSplat would be the best way to reconstruct that. And then I would actually recommend for doing like local adjustments, like floater removal, using the rings mode instead of centers because it's much easier to create local adjustments.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have any more pieces of software you would recommend?
Yeah, definitely. So another one that I would recommend here, let me actually just open it really fast, would be a relatively newer piece of software called Lichtfeld Studio, which, if you're familiar with Janusz, otherwise known as Mr. NeRF, he has been working on this for a while. And
Can you share the screen?
Yes, yeah, I'm just opening it. Let me open it right now. So we can see here, this is Lichtfeld Studio. He just released the 0.4 version of the platform studio, and he just released the 0.4 version of the platform, and free and open source, a platform for local reconstruction, free and open source, and it also supports a few other reconstruction great Gaussian splatting, and it also supports a few other really great capabilities, 3D Gaussian as this thing called the unscented transform, which allows you 3D Gaussian unscented transform, which is a method out of NVIDIA, which allows you to, as you kind of can see from the lenses, pop-up here, allows you to train on a wider variety of lenses as opposed to just it's a very capable system too. And it's one that's getting it's a very capable system too, and it's one that's getting rapidly built out. The other platform too that I would recommend that people look into, if you're these are all the other platform too that I would recommend that people look into, if you're these are all local based recommendations. People check out this platform called Brush it's a single engineer at Google DeepMind named Arthur, and you can reconstruct things in a variety of devices. Let me just go back to the screen, where you can train in a browser that you would need to use Chrome, or there's also platforms that there's also a way to download it locally, and Brush will work.
Are you trying to share something? Because
yeah, I'm just trying to find which window there you are. So Brush is a bit more sparse in its UI until you actually load in a data set, but it will work on math in addition to CUDA devices. It'll work on pretty much any device actually to train locally, and is also totally free and open source.
Have you tried using SuperSplat?
To edit or to like distribute or
I mean for both, because it consists of two pieces of software, right? The one is for the sharing, and one is for actually cleaning the datasets.
Yeah, exactly. So when we go to SuperSplat's website, we can go to the editor, which is right here, and basically we would just drag and drop a POI onto here, and then we can start to go ahead and make some adjustments using these tools on the bottom here. And then once we have it cleaned up and stuff, we would be able to actually just go ahead and distribute it on the internet. So here's one from Simon. And once it loads, we would have the capability of flying around through it, and you can see this is also like a super sharp reconstruction too.
Here's a question about the method to create smooth flat surfaces called Sugar. I haven't heard. Have you heard about it?
Yeah. So Sugar is a paper from this guy named Antoine Guidon, and he has a couple of follow-up papers to this too, which I think will be pretty interesting. There's one called Gaussian frosting, and there's another one called Matcha, and then I'm pretty sure he has one more recent one too, which I'm blanking off the top of my head. But there's definitely a I would suggest looking at some of his follow-up papers, which improve upon Sugar.
And here's a remark about the floaters.
This is a great method. The bilateral grid, or bilateral guided radiance field, was the original name of the paper. And like here, let me pull up because it's actually pretty amazing. It won, I think, I'm trying to remember what award it won at SIGGRAPH, but let me share my screen on this because it's a very cool method, and it's a research direction that I think would merit more research, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see more results along these lines shortly. Let's see where. Here we are. Okay, so here is the method, and you can see here we have a lot of varying exposures here, and then when we reconstruct it, it's no longer a problem. And this is benchmarking off of NeRF, which is kind of like the king of NeRF methods.
Okay, so we are basically referring to if you are shooting the scene for a longer time, like for example what I showed with the exterior, it took several hours with different lightning, with different weather and so on. So
Right.
this exactly is causing those floaters and different artifacts, right?
Yeah, and definitely, being able to capture really rapidly is also a huge advantage for just like having like view consistent across a longer period of time. There's a newer drone called the Anti-Gravity A1 from Insta360 that is just an 8K 360 drone, which should also help speed up the time of capture a lot. And I think DJI is rumored to be launching one as well, hopefully soon. And my hope is that this will also make a big difference for people capturing.
What kind of commercial use cases have you seen so far? Like really the ones that wouldn't be available without the 3D Gaussian splatting. Like, have you seen any? Because we mentioned earlier that we should consider 3D Gaussian splatting as another layer to share the digital reconstruction of the real space. We have seen the video clip, but again, it's not something that you would actually need. It's nice to have. It looks nice. It's showing the capabilities, but it's not really something that's vital for either entertainment or the technical industries.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the things that have happened or are happening in media and entertainment are still behind closed doors a little bit. Like, for instance, the Superman reconstruction in that movie, had been in the pipeline for about 2 years. And, we just even though they started on it very shortly after the publishing of Gaussian splatting, we didn't see it until pretty recently. And so I think that that's the case right now for a lot of these different examples. So that I know that there's quite a few that are on their way or are in the process right now. But we have to wait a little bit just to see the final version of them. But I do know that there are a lot of film projects that are using Gaussian splatting right now, and there's quite a few that haven't really gotten a lot of attention or coverage yet that I'm discussing with some of their teams to show. But in media and entertainment, it's making a big difference right now for them.
Before we wrap this up, I would like to plug in our Free Dice conference. You were part of it last year. It's going to happen again this year in May. You can see more information on freedice.com. It's actually, I can pull out the website. This year it's going to be not 100% dedicated, but a lot of stuff about the 3D Gaussian splatting, because as we mentioned earlier, we can see it being adopted with very big players. We can see a lot of people from reality capturing world to play with it, to try to implement it in their workflows, in their deliveries to their clients. So it is a very important topic, and we will be having a big portion of the stage time and also discussions and networking. It will be dedicated to 3D Gaussian splatting. So make sure to come to Prague this May. It's really beautiful there, and hope to see you there.
Yeah, it was a great conference. I really enjoyed so many of the talks last year, and it was very nice to meet all the people who are based in Europe who are very into Gaussian splatting.
Yeah, thank you. So before we wrap this up, what do you think, or do you have any idea, any predictions where this whole 3D Gaussian splatting will go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to see just a bunch of industries continue to find benefits from doing their work in 3D or distributing their work in very lifelike 3D to people. I think we're going to see a very large expansion across the robotics and simulation industry using Gaussian splatting specifically for both autonomous vehicles and for humanoid or other tasks. I think we're going to see a lot more films start to utilize Gaussian splatting both for location scouting and for dynamic capture as well in compositing into productions. Similarly, I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of applications in the education space. Whether that is translating archaeological locations to people, creating educational content. We talked about like AI earlier. Being able to take like a Egyptian palace or something and be able to ask questions to an AI and have it walk you through the space is something that I think we're going to see for both on those examples and then for any training-based examples too. I think we're going to see it be a very strong visual capability to teach people how to do certain things and be able to break down steps for people. And for the geospatial and construction industry, it seems like converting a lot or reprocessing a lot of existing data to this very lifelike 3D capacity is also going to occur. But I more so just expect it to touch anywhere where 2D work is currently being done. I think that's probably what's going to happen with this, and being able to now digitize 3D spaces with the same fidelity as 2D. I think at this point, I personally am convinced that it's a full-on imaging medium in the same way that we've had photography be the de facto way that we've represented the world around us for nearly the last 200 years. I 100% believe that is what this technology is enabling the extension of for the general future. I actually I don't have any doubts actually about this, and I think it's going to be hopefully at the very least as popular as photography and video by that extension within like.
Mm. What I love about that is that it's actually democratizing the reality capturing world, because I was always saying to my clients or to my friends, like wherever you want to take image, take at least video, or take a basic application on your phone and do some 3D reconstruction of the space, because you will not only have images, you will also have some measurable model, right? With the 3D Gaussian splatting, I think this is getting even more easier, because it's much more forgiving, as we mentioned before. So it's not really about guessing how you should capture the space to get a good enough 3D model. I have seen multiple cases where people were just holding their phone in front of them, shooting the street, just a simple video, and it reconstructed the scene amazingly. So I think this will get easier and easier on regular people to be able to capture the screen, the scene.
Yeah, exactly. I think like you were mentioning, every camera can reconstruct the data for this, and even where we have right now is more than good enough. And so I think that as some of these hardware manufacturers start to actually shift their business models to cater to this, it's just going to get easier and easier, combined with the research progress as well to reconstruct this. So I honestly believe it's just a general inevitability. Honestly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. Do you have any last words for our audience? Is there something you would like to
Oh, sure.
tell
Yeah,
them?
if you're very interested in following along with the progress, both in research and its actual application in the real world, I've been documenting it on my website, radiancefields.com, for a little bit over 3 years now, so even pre-Gaussian splatting. And that is my intention to continue to do so. Thank you. So yeah, it's my intention to continue to document this technology across all the different representations, not just Gaussian splatting, but NeRFs, any of the voxel-based ones, any of the other primitives that we kind of discussed today, anything that has to do with lifelike 3D. So if you're interested in following along there, please consider checking out the website. Though I'm also now creating video-based content on YouTube as well, and starting to discuss how people out in the world are using this technology. So recent videos include ones about Google Maps. Google Maps supports a form of Gaussian splatting called RadSplat. And I spoke to Esri, and there's a couple other pretty high-profile ones coming over the next few months. So if you're interested in seeing how this is actually being applied in the real world, consider following that channel as well. But yeah, thank you to everyone for actually just coming to listen today.
Thank you so much, Michael.
No problem.
Thank you, everybody who's been following, who's been watching this almost 1 and 40 minutes webinar. I hope it was a lot of value added. If I didn't think it's valuable, I would cut this much earlier. But I think it was a great discussion, honestly. So hopefully it was great for you also. Thank you, guys. If you missed something or you want to see the recording, it will be available very soon on YouTube. You can rewatch this also here on LinkedIn, but I will edit the final version for YouTube in few days, so it will be there. Please subscribe to YouTube of Michael Rubloff. Please subscribe to YouTube of Michael Gula. This is the only way how you can support us and show us that you appreciate what we are doing. So please do that, and we are thankful already.
Thank you so much. And I will be at GeoWeek, as I just saw the comment, and there will be some cool things announced hopefully soon.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
All right.